I get the hype. Are you kidding me right now? I didn't love it. Hubba hubba. Okay, I'm sorry. I love this book. You probably already know what this video is about based on the title. That's right, in this video, I will be reading my favorite booktubers' favorite books. Say that 5 times fast. Very tongue twisty. I have been a part of this YouTube community as a silent watcher for quite a few years now, and I have my favorites. Since I joined the YouTube community as a content creator back in January of this year, there have been a few other content creators that I've absolutely fallen in love with, and I trust their ratings and reviews and their recommendations. In this video, I picked 3 booktubers that I trust and I love reading their recommendations for, and I am going to read some of their favorite books. That is what we're doing. I hope this video goes well because I would love to turn this into a series. I have more than 3 favorite booktubers. I would love to incorporate other booktubers' favorite books into my channel and read some of their favorite books. So we'll see how this goes. The lineup for this video is Haley Pham, Mick from Mick's Library, and Taylor Tippett. I reached out to both Taylor and Mick a few weeks ago, and they gave me each one book that they want me to read. I didn't get to reach out to Haley, but I watch all of her videos and I own a book that she loved reading, so I'm going to read that book. I am on a mission to read through my TBR bookshelf. I haven't bought a single book since August, and that is a feat for me. I would love to continue this book buying ban challenge. So the 3 books that I've selected, I either own or have gotten from the library. Let's talk about the books that I plan on reading in this vlog. This first one is Love Interest by Clare Gilmore. Haley recommended this book and she said more people need to read it. So I said challenge accepted. She really loved this story and she said that it reminded her a little bit of Beach Read, and Beach Read is one of her favorite books, and Beach Read is my favorite Emily Henry book. I actually love Clare Gilmore's writing. I read The Perfect Fit a few months ago. I had received the ARC on NetGalley and I gave it a 5 out of 5. I love her writing style. Her stories are emotional and just so good. I am very excited to read this book and I'm so glad that it came highly recommended by Haley. This next recommendation is a no-brainer from Taylor. It is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. She says that if there's one book that anyone should ever and could ever read, it is this book. She absolutely loves this book. It's one of her favorites, and I'm going to give it another go. I say that because a few years ago, I did try to read this story, and I soft DNF'd it. I read about 50 pages and I thought it was a little bit slow. I will say though that my reading palette and my interests have changed, and I definitely think that I can see myself enjoying this book more now than I did a few years ago, so I am excited to give it another shot. This last book is recommended by Mick, and it is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. I absolutely love Tia Williams. Back in February, I did read a love song for Ricky Wilde, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it so much. It's such an emotional story, and I love the magical realism of it. This is long overdue, and I'm so glad that Mick picked this book up for me. When she read it, she said that it's witty, it's emotional, the connections that the characters have is just like no other. So I am excited to hopefully feel the same way that Mick felt when she was reading the story. I'm not too worried since I loved A Love Song for Ricky Wilde. I did also already start this book. I am 37 pages in and I already agree. I am laughing, I am chuckling, I am already loving the writing. These are the 3 books that I plan on reading in this vlog. I hope that by the end of this video, I can say that I love these books just as much as Mick, Haley, and Taylor do. Enjoy watching! Hello, I'm matching. I kind of love it. Elephant in the room, I got new glasses. Aren't they so cute? They're from Warby Parker. They are the Drew, and it's a red, beautiful red. Yay, I did get another pair, and maybe I will debut them this weekend, and the next time I update you. Update on 7 days in June. I am on page 170, so chapter 16, I am halfway through, a little over halfway. I am loving it. I feel like my heart is breaking, but also my heart is so full with these two characters. Let's back up a little bit. This is a story about two authors, Shane and Ava, and they both grew up together in the same time period, and they also become famous authors at the same time as well. Ava writes erotic romance novels, and Shane writes literary fiction, so their genres are quite opposite from one another. Shane and Ava met in high school, so a very, very long time ago, and they had the best 7 days of their lives, but they haven't seen each other since, and now the present day is 15 years later. The catch is, though, that they've been writing about each other in their stories. Ava is writing about Shane, and Shane is writing about Ava. I already think that the premise is so beautiful. It's like this unforgotten love that they have for each other. It's so passionate. So we're 15 years later in the present. They have these unresolved feelings towards each other, and at one point they end up running into each other. The writing style in this book reminds me of the show Insecure. If you haven't watched it, it's on Max. It's really good. We read from third person point of view of Ava and Shane and some other characters that are supporting roles. The writing is really unique and witty. I've laughed a few times, even though this book is gut-wrenching, and I love the love and I hate the yearning, but that's what makes this book unputdownable. Is that a word? I think that's a word. When I say that this book is emotional, this is what I mean. She was a fire he'd started ages ago, and for too long, he just let it smolder. It was time to put it out. The love that they have for each other. I absolutely love that this is a slow burn, second chance romance. It's giving all of that. I think that the characters are so likable in this story. Ava is a young mom, and she's just taking care of her daughter and trying to give her the best life, but she also deals with a medical condition, and she's trying to balance the best of both worlds, which is taking care of herself, taking care of her daughter, and also writing a really famous book series. Shane, on the other hand, is broody and quiet and anxious to release that stress. He likes to watch airport reunion videos on YouTube, and I think that's the most precious thing that I've ever heard. He is obsessed with Ava. I got another quote for you. "I'm not just writing about you," said Shane. "I'm writing to you." Are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? I love this book. Tia Williams just has a way of tugging at your heartstrings and making you feel all of the feels. I already love this more than A Love Song for Ricky Wilde, and I loved that book. I think what really resonates with me is our characters. They are relatable. I have a autoimmune disease, and I have learned to deal with it my entire life, and Ava is having to do that herself, and so it's nice to see this human that isn't always quite functioning, and a main character who isn't perfect, a normal human being. Does that make sense? I like that our main characters have flaws. I like that we're learning about their past and how they know each other, but also how that reflects their future and how that affects them as they are as their present selves. That is my update for now. I'm loving it. I hope to finish it within the next few days so we can move on to our next book. I have a hair appointment tomorrow. I am trimming my hair and dyeing it black, so maybe I'll take you along for the ride. It's been a while since I've cut my hair. I haven't cut my hair since June, and I haven't put heat in my hair since June as well. So I'm going on this curly girly journey, but I definitely have some shaping that I need to do since I wasn't cutting my hair previously for curly hair, and this is my natural hair. That is my update. That's what I'm gonna do tomorrow, and I will talk to you when I finish this absolutely adoring story. And I hope that Shane and Ava have a happy ending, because I am truly rooting for them and I am falling in love with them. Yes. Hello, I feel like a changed woman. I got a haircut, I got rid of my gray hairs, I got new glasses. Hubba hubba. Okay, I'm sorry. I finished 7 Days in June. I loved it. 5 out of 5. Mick was not wrong. Everyone else who read this, who loved it, not wrong. It was so good. I cried the last few pages. Tears. It was ugly crying, but it was so worth it. I highly recommend this book. This book is a romance. It is not a rom-com. There are funny moments throughout this story though, and I want to say that lightly because this is a very emotional and not dark, but this is a heavy story. Check the trigger warnings before you read this story. Our characters deal with so much growing up. There's drug abuse, there's assault, there's alcohol addiction, self-harm. It's such a heavy book, but it's so beautifully written. The prose is iconic. It's so good. I loved it a lot. I do have a few quotes because I love Shane. I love Shane. I love Shane a lot. I love you, said Shane, dramatically, violently, and forever. I want to be everything, he said, his mouth against her ear. Want to be the reason you light up. I want to make you laugh, make you moan, make you safe. I have one more, just one more. How do you finish a love story that you never wanted to end? This book is so good. I can't put it into words any other way. It's emotional. Our characters are silly, but they come with so much substance that you root for them. It's dynamic. I love that we jump back and forth between different timelines. So we really get to know Shane and Ava as characters, and we can really appreciate them and understand how they're feeling. I love when a romance novel has a main male character and we get to read from his perspective. We know how he's feeling, and Ava is also just a character that you really love. She is caring. She is so selfless. She wants her daughter to have the best life possible because she didn't necessarily have that growing up. A theme that stood out to me in this book is white privilege, and how similar to Hollywood, how in the book industry, white authors and writers are given an upper hand compared to these marginalized communities and Black authors specifically in this story. And I love how Tia Williams goes into detail about this and brings it to light. It's so important that we read about stuff like this because we see it in the movie industry, but we don't necessarily hear about it in the book industry. And so I think that she does a really good job of bringing that to light and talking about this topic because I'm sure it really resonates to her, but it also resonates to me as a reader, and we need to read more about these situations so we can stop white privilege and make sure there's equality for all. Something else that I caught on in this story is sexism in the book industry. We have Ava, who's a female writer, and then we have Shane, who is a male writer. And throughout the story, as we're reading it, we can feel the discrepancies between how women authors are portrayed compared to male authors. And it was really interesting to read about it from Ava's perspective as a woman. They're at this panel and they're both talking about the characters within their story. And Ava mentioned just how much easier it is for him to not care about what other people think because he is a male in society as an author. But Ava has to be so articulate about how she presents herself in society, how she writes her erotic novels. It's not that difficult for Shane. And I see that not just in the book industry, but everywhere in real life. Tia Williams brings real life situations and real life topics and weaves them into the book related industry since both of our characters are authors. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I loved the romance. I loved the plot. I loved the social commentary that we have in this story. I loved everything about it, and I couldn't recommend this any more because I recommend it 100%. The next book that I'm reading in this vlog is Love Interest by Clare Gilmore. This is a book that Haley Pham really loved reading, and I am excited to start this. From what I know about this is a office enemies to lovers romance. Our main female character, she's hoping to get this promotion at her job, but then this guy comes in, our main male character, and he ends up getting the promotion. They don't like each other, and the issue here is that they are put on the same project, so they need to start working together as a team, and that's where that forced proximity is going to come into play. I mean, not my favorite tropes. I think enemies to lovers is fun. The last office romance that I read was The Perfect Fit, which is also by Clare Gilmore, and I loved it. So I am hoping that I will love this just as much. Only time will tell. And only reading will tell. I wanted to give my first reading update of Love Interest by Clare Gilmore. Yesterday I read 100 pages and I don't know what was wrong with me, but I could not get into the story. I felt like I was forcing myself to read. I was just feeling slumpy picking up this story, and it's so sad because I was looking forward to reading it. This is a story about our main character. Her name is Casey. She is a financial analyst at this company. She is ready to get promoted and kind of change the course of her career into a more creative role as a project manager. And we start off the story with her walking into her boss's room hoping for a promotion, and it turns out she does not get it. Instead, there's this guy she's never met before who ends up getting it. His name is Alex. She doesn't get the promotion, but she gets put on this big project with Alex. So now they have to work together. So we have forced proximity in an office perspective. We have not necessarily enemies to lovers, but rivals to lovers. These tropes aren't tropes that I dislike necessarily. I am more of a enemies to friends to lovers, emphasis on the friends part. I couldn't connect with our characters. I wasn't really enjoying the setting and where the story was taking place because a lot of it was office related and the mood just was not good. I just wasn't enjoying what I was reading. So I read 100 pages yesterday and I picked it back up today. Happy to say that I am glad that I am enjoying this a little bit more as Alex and Casey are forced to connect and work together and do this project together so they can get to know each other, and then I can read about the little back and forth bantering that's happening in the story. I like it a lot more than I did yesterday, which is good, and I am glad. In terms of the characters, I have to applaud Clare Gilmore because there's diversity and representation in this story, more so than what you see in other stories. We have Alex, who is Korean American, and then we have, I believe, an Indian. His name is Brijesh. Unless I'm completely incorrect, that is a South Asian or Asian name. So it's nice to see that the characters we're reading about and the characters in the story are not all white. And I really like that. There's family drama in the story that we're starting to unravel and learn a little bit more about Alex's family as well as Casey's family, so they're connecting in some sort of way that's on a deeper level, and I like that about them as well. I'm already almost halfway through. It's going by a lot faster than it was yesterday when I had started. I'm not gonna be able to read anymore today. Mark's friend is in town. We are going to go play putt-putt at this new putt-putt place called The Puttery. I've been once before. It's fun. They did change out their courses and there's a Halloween course. I'm excited to do that course. So we're gonna be doing that and just bopping around Kansas City. That is my reading update. Right now, it's not a 5 out of 5 for me unless something drastically changes, and I absolutely love this next half of the story. But at this moment, it's falling around the 3 out of 5 star category. That's not bad. I would still recommend 3 out of 5. It's just not my favorite, but we haven't finished the book yet, so we will see once I finish this book. Okay, bye. Hello, I finished my second book of this vlog, Love Interest by Clare Gilmore. I didn't love it. I'm gonna stick to my original thoughts from yesterday when I said I think it was going to be around a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I agree. I would give it a solid 3 out of 5, and that is not a bad rating. I just didn't love it. And maybe it's because I had higher expectations since I read Clare Gilmore's second book. This right here is her debut novel, and I don't think it's as strong as Perfect Fit, which is the new release that's coming out. That's why when I kind of compare the two and think about why I loved The Perfect Fit versus this book, I would say this is at the lower end of what I really enjoyed. Let's talk about the things I liked about this book. I liked the diversity and biracial representation in the different types of characters we get in this story. I like our two main characters, Alex and Casey. I enjoyed their banter and I enjoyed the fact that they were getting to know each other as they were working together. I didn't necessarily like the workplace conflict and the workplace political drama within this story. I couldn't care for it, which is probably the reason why I thought it was a little bit on the slower side. I felt that when I was reading the story, I was just itching for the moments between Alex and Casey more so than the plot of the story that we have. I hope that gives a little better understanding about what I liked and didn't like about the story. I liked how the story ended with our main female character, Casey. I think that there is a point where she learns that she needs to kind of take a leap of faith and do what she wants to do and do things for herself, and I liked that theme for a female character. Not my favorite, 3 out of 5 stars. Not bad. I would recommend it. I think that I would recommend The Perfect Fit more so than this book, but I do enjoy Clare Gilmore as an author and a writer, and I don't think people are talking about her enough, which is why I think that, yes, I would recommend. Let's talk about the final book that I'll be reading in this vlog. I'm finally going to start The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I'm getting very excited to read this story. I know I mentioned previously that this is going to be a restart for me. I had read maybe 50 pages a few years ago, way back when, and I stopped reading it, but I am excited to pick it up. I think I'm in a better headspace to read this story now, knowing that this is magical realism. There's a little bit of historical fiction in here. It's a character-driven story, so it might be a little bit slower, and I know that, so I am setting myself up for success, and hopefully I will enjoy this book now more so than I did before when I had tried to read it. I'm really excited. The back says it takes place in 1714 of France. Adeline meets a dangerous stranger and makes a terrible mistake. It will be hundreds of years before she stumbles into a hidden bookstore and discovers someone who can remember her name, and suddenly everything changes again. Pretty vague, if you ask me, but that's kind of what I like about reading the back cover. I don't like it when we're given the entire plot of the story. I think there needs to be some intrigue and suspense. I do love that this story is going to center around a bookstore. I love when there's reading and books and bookstores within a story. It's a little Inception-y. This is going to be fun. This is going to be good. I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to get started on this, and I will give you my initial thoughts in a little bit. Hello, it has been a few days. I honestly don't know what day we are on this vlog, but we're just gonna keep going with it. I just got back from work. I did a half day there, and I made myself my afternoon cup of coffee. I wanted to give you my first reading update of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Just roll with me here. Have you ever felt nervous to read a book that was either praised so highly or not liked at all? Because this is one of the books that made me feel this way. I was excited to start, but I was also worried that I wouldn't like it. I know that this book has either the you're going to love it or you're not going to love it mentality. I mean, books don't have mental thoughts, but you know what I mean. I am on page 211. I freaking love it. It's really, really good. This book is a story about Addie LaRue, and it takes place in France of 1714. During this time period, women are grown up and taught to be like a lady. Get married, have children at a very young age. Now, Addie LaRue is free-spirited. She is adventurous. She is not like your normal woman during this time period. She wants to explore the world. She wants to travel. She doesn't want to be cooped up in her town that she lives in for the rest of her life and be forced to marry someone she doesn't necessarily love. This is a story about a girl who aspires to dream big and explore the world and get out of town, but she is forced to get married and live this life that her parents decided for her. So when she basically gets this curse, she is living forever. So now this is our chance to dream big and explore, but also with that, she deals with the consequences of her wish and the consequences of her curse. It's really beautiful. I think the writing style is pretty, it's metaphorical, the prose is so emotional. I feel like I'm reading a memoir of Addie LaRue's story and travels around the world, and she's enjoying it so much, but also we're reading about the struggles that she faces because no one knows who she is. Everyone forgets who she is, and she wished this upon herself. But when she wished this, she was angry and she didn't necessarily think about wording her wish correctly. It's like when you're granted 3 wishes from a genie, you have to be careful what you wish for. It's that same exact story, but told in such a beautiful way. This book is really reminding me how important and short life is for those of us who don't live forever, and we need to live in the moment and we need to just live life. And I'm learning that through Addie LaRue's life, and it's really beautiful. This story jumps back and forth in time as we are reading from Addie's perspective, growing up with this curse and how she goes from one place to the other and how she also slowly falls in love. It's great. We finally meet a character that Addie can really connect with, and Addie can kind of be herself around, and she hasn't felt this way for 300 years. She's been alive for 300 years. I am halfway through and I am loving it so far. I just wanted to give you my reading update. If you do decide to read it, you should read it with an open mind and not know much about this story. I know I briefly talked about the plot, but there's so much more to it. I mentioned that I started reading this book before, and I can definitely understand why I didn't like it at the time. I am loving the slow-paced story. It's very character-driven, but also we have a plot. It's heartbreaking, it's heartwarming, it's gut-wrenching, it's loving, it's giving all of the emotions. I'm going to stop yapping now. I've said enough. I will talk to you when I finish this story. Cheers. I finished The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab, and that was the most painful ending of a book that I've read in a very long time. I was sobbing. I was bawling. I think the last time I cried so much was when I watched the show One Day. Whenever I watch Like Crazy, One Day, A Walk to Remember, I just tears streaming, and this book made me feel the same way. I'm so glad that I gave this book a second chance. I think that it is slow to start at the very beginning, but once you just get sucked into Addie LaRue's story, then you don't want to put it down. I think that the emotions and connections that are built between Addie and the different people that she meets is a reason to just keep on reading the story. A story like this that has a lot of historical fiction within it. We jump through a lot of time periods, which is what I did mention, and it's great because some of the events that have happened that Addie is living through, we've heard of, we've learned about in school, and she's there, so we get her perspective from it. Overall, it was just such a unique story, and a story that I think I'm going to be thinking about for a while. The ending. If you read the ending, then you know this is a story that ends up centering around books. And I love a story within a story. Nothing bad to say after reading this. I am really glad that I did. It took me a long time to read this, longer than an average book. I can usually finish a book in 2 to 3 days, but I think I spent maybe 5 or 6 days reading this story, and I'm glad I took my time. It is slower paced, as I did mention, and if I had rushed myself, then I would not have finished this book. If you are trying to finish this really quickly, it's not worth it. This is a story that deserves to be taken its time. I don't want to say anything else about the second half of the story because me talking about it doesn't do this book justice. It's perfect. And so I'm being very vague with my final thoughts. I apologize for that, but also this book deserves a read, and that's why I think everyone can appreciate this story in their own way. It's so good. I see why Taylor loves this book so much, and I love this book so much. I'm glad she is spreading the good word. 5 out of 5. I hope you do get a chance to read it if you watch this video and I've convinced you to read it. I loved it. With that, this vlog is over. Let's quickly do a recap of the books that I read in this video. The book that I started with is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. Mick from Mick's Library had recommended this book to me, and 5 out of 5. I loved it. It was so emotional, and the characters were so relatable, and the story just came to life in my mind and in my heart. I think that everyone should read this story and also read Tia Williams' other works too, because she just tugs at your heartstrings. Her writing and her storytelling reminds me a lot of Abby Jimenez, and if you like Abby Jimenez's writings and works, then you will love this book. 5 out of 5, loved it. I also read Love Interest by Clare Gilmore, and this is a book that Haley Pham really liked and enjoyed. Unfortunately, this was not my favorite in this vlog, and it wasn't my favorite in general. It was good. I think it's a me issue because I did read The Perfect Fit before I read this book, and I believe that Clare Gilmore's writing style has just gotten better with her second book. I think you could if you want to read this, but I enjoyed The Perfect Fit more, but that's not what this vlog is about. 3 out of 5, which is not bad at all. Still good. Last but not least, this story. I had already talked about it. We're not going to get into more detail. 5 out of 5, probably my favorite in this vlog and going to be one of my favorites that I've read this year. Such a beautiful story. I will hopefully at some point reread it. I think that would be really special to reread it. I get the hype. I am glad that I can understand the hype, and I loved this book. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it all the way through, I think that this video was a success. I found some favorites of my favorite booktubers' favorite books. That's great. I hope to continue with the series and add more favorite books to my favorite books pile. I will see you in another video. Have a great day. Bye.